Tonight's the yard site of, tonight is the yard site of Esther Bas Rabbi, and today is the end of the Shiva of Rabbi Pesach Betzalel ben Leib, and also the Nishmas Tabus Bas Rav David and Pinchas Karitzer. Shalom Shalom and Aliyah, good intercedes on behalf of all of us who say Chai Yisrael. Chaim. Who's it L'chaim? When a Chassidic for Ren can accomplish, Malach Mechol cannot accomplish.
Yes, thank
you. L'chaim for Racham and Zolaycha before Kreva Shlema.
Amen. And to our Rabbi to continue.
I just want to share with you one story about my dear friend Betzalel Fleischman, Ol B'Shalom. Betzalel was a very free-spirited person. Open heart, and a heart that inspired literally thousands of people. Betzalel lived in a farm in New Mexico. And where he lived, there were no real supermarkets. But people would go to the central area to get provisions. And the Pesach was coming. Betzalel grew up, he was one of the hog farmers, the architects of Woodstock. He was a very open-hearted person and very, I can't really describe it. I think the story does, if you hear the story, I think you'll get something of the light of his neshama. So Betzalel saw an advertisement, there was a leaflet about a Passover Seder. And Betzalel figured, hey, I've never been to Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, but it's a thing everyone's invited, it's a Passover Seder, maybe I should come and check it out. And so he decided he's going to join the Seder. But before joining the Seder, you can't just go to someone's house without a gift. So he decided he's going to bring a gift. What's his gift going to be? He decided he's going to buy some matzah. Matzah might be for Passover, he thought. Also, what do Jews buy when they go to Jewish people's houses? Manischewitz. Manischewitz. There was some Manischewitz.
So he wasn't so religious.
He never was in a synagogue at all in his life. He never celebrated Yom Kippur in his life. He didn't know anything about Judaism at all. But he figured it sounds like a fun thing, a Passover Seder. So he got some matzah. He got some Manischewitz. And he happened to see this book that said on it, Haggadah. Haggadah. It said on the book Haggadah of Passover. So he figured that's for Passover too. So he takes the book and he prepares to go to his friend's house for Passover. But that night there was a snowstorm. New Mexico at this time of year also has snowstorms. So he couldn't leave his home. So he's at home and he has his matzah, he has his wine, and he has a Passover guide, the Haggadah. So he opened up to page 1 and it says, fill up your cup with wine. He's thinking, you know what, maybe I should just do this. Maybe I should do this. He never was at a Passover Seder in his life, but he has all the provisions for it. He has all the things for it. Maybe he should do it. So he opens up to page 1, and page 1 says, fill your cup up with wine. He fills up his cup with wine. Goes to page 2, say this. Page 3, do this. Page 4, do that. Whatever he knew how to do, whatever he understood from the English instructions, he did. He went through the entire Seder. He had the 4 cups of wine. He had the matzah. And he loved it so much, he decided he wants to do it one more time. Why not? So he does it, the whole thing. He doesn't know anything about halacha or anything. This was such a good experience. Let me do this one more time. So he goes back to page 1. He fills up a cup of wine again. And page 2 and page 3 and Haggadah. And he does a whole Seder a second time. And when he finishes the second time, you think he was satisfied? No. I want to do it again. So he does the whole entire Seder a third time. He finishes the third Seder, but now he's already had 12 cups of wine and 9 pieces of matzah. And now he looks outside and he sees it's already the morning. It's already the morning. So Betzalel burst out crying because he realized he had fulfilled the words in the Haggadah, how the rabbis were saying the story of leaving Egypt until Ad shegiu zman kriyat shema shel shachrit. You're supposed to say the story until the morning. So he burst out crying, and he's like, I got to do this. I got to be together with the Jewish people. And that's what did him move to Berkeley, Ferris, and that's what created some of his... Betzalel inspired thousands of people with his pure heart. His name. That's why he took the name Pesach. Took the name Pesach because Pesach was what his first step in Judaism was Passover. That's why he took the name Pesach. He took the name Betzalel because Betzalel was the architect of the tabernacle, and Betzalel had a gift. He was able to see the most useless item and see the magic in it. Let's give you an example. One of the stories I heard from Yaakov Bienstock during the Shiva. Yaakov Bienstock had lost his father. He had just become closer to Judaism, and he was sitting Shiva. But who went to go visit Yaakov? Not very many people, because he didn't have any friends then. Now he's Baruch Hashem and part of the community. But that time when he lost his father, he didn't have very many friends. So Pesach Betzalel went to his house, and he saw something. He saw this guy's lonely. He stayed with him from morning to night, every single day of the Shiva. When I visited Pesach Betzalel in the hospital, he would ask me every time to take with me some cardboard boxes, because a hospital in Cedar Sinai, they serve every meal on a tray made of a cardboard. So Pesach Betzalel didn't want to waste the cardboard, so he'd ask me to take the cardboard. In fact, I was lucky. I only had to carry like 20 boxes of cardboard. But other people who picked him up from the hospital when he returned home, they had to go with he filled the whole car with these cardboard boxes, because he wasn't a hoarder. He wasn't someone who just had to keep things. He really had a gift for seeing people and seeing times and seeing events and being completely present and wherever he was to see the soul of what was going on. As we had in Hayom Yom a few days ago, in Hayom Yom it says that Baal Shem Tov loved light, and because the word light in Hebrew, the Zohar says, is the same numerical value as the word secret. And Baal Shem Tov says whoever could knows the secret of something, knows the inner meaning of something, he could illuminate things. So Betzalel, he met you, and he right away connected heart to heart. He didn't, without any introductions, without any knowing. Right away, it went from heart to heart. It was that was without one more anecdote. There are 2 times a year you're supposed to have boxer. You're supposed to have carobs on the 33rd day of the Omer, the day of Rabbi Shimon, and the 15th of Shvat. Years ago, now it's more prevalent. You get in Glotmart. Sometimes you can't. Carobs on these days, but if you can't, you have to know where to find the boxer trees. Who knows where the carob trees are? Betzalel. Betzalel knows the location of every carob tree in Los Angeles, and he knows this is a buck. And the carob. It's exciting. I'll go with you. Let's go get some carob. Instead, when we had the siyums in the summertime, I wanted to be available by Zoom. But who was the one who took advantage of it and every single night stayed on the Zoom from the beginning to the end? Betzalel. Because Betzalel was a man of neshama, of soul. And he felt soul, and he saw soul in people, in times, in events, in things. And he was a Betzalel means an architect. He saw something. He was very gifted with his hands. Whatever he saw, he found a way to use it in a positive way. Whether it was a cardboard boxes, whether it was a piece of wood he saw in this. Oh, this is a great piece of wood. This is a wonderful piece of wood. You're looking like, what is this guy talking about? This is a great. And this is something that is very relevant to each of us tonight. It's a month of Elul. The month of Elul is a time when people are more introspective. People look inside themselves. So I find
a piece of plywood or cardboard, I say, right away, how can I get rid of it before my wife gonna come home? And then I'm gonna sleep in the car again.
People look inside themselves. Here are you. At this the time of the year, people look inside themselves at this time of year. And when you look inside of yourself, often what I think everyone can resonate, this resonates with each of us, there are times you look inside yourself and you don't feel that your life is measuring up to what you dreamed it out to be. You don't feel that you're behaving in a way that you're proud of. And you have some kinds of attractions to things that are fleeting, but they distract you. You have some kinds of ambitions, but you have this hesitancy and ambivalence. And you don't end up going and opening your heart to doing, to lifting, rolling up your sleeves. And sometimes you find yourself making the same mistakes over and over again. And what happens is when you make the same mistake again and again, is you get depressed and despondent, and you think like you're just going to stay this way forever.
Good point.
So I want to look in this week's Torah portion, which directly addresses this issue in the beginning of the Torah portion. The beginning of the Torah portion talks about the laws of a firstborn. The Torah says if a man is married and has 2 children, he has to give the firstborn double rights to his property. That means, let's say, for example, he left 3 gold coins and he has 2 children. He has to give the older son 2 gold coins, and the younger son 1 gold coin, because the older son gets double portion. That's a simple law the Torah is presenting. But the Torah presents it in a way, there's a lot of different nuances here that make us wonder whether there's something deeper. And in fact, in everything in Torah has a soul. So the Torah says there's a man, and the man has 2 wives. One wife he loves and one wife he doesn't. Or likes or less, depending on the way the commentaries explain.
Don't say doesn't. Less.
There are different interpretations. Because Leah said that she was hated. Leah said she was hated means she was loved less. So the word hated in the Torah means loved less often. So one wife he loves more, one wife he loves less.
Exactly.
And the wife he loves less gives birth to a child. The wife he loves more gives birth to a child. The Torah says they have children, the beloved wife and the hated wife. So then the Torah says if the firstborn was the firstborn of the hated wife, he is not allowed to ignore the rights of the hated wife and her son, and he must give the double portion to the firstborn of the wife he does not like so much. That's the way the Torah presents it. Look at more carefully at the language. It's very funny. Which wife is presented first? The beloved wife is presented first. Which child is born first? The hated wife's son is born first. So why shouldn't the Torah should have said, if he has 2 wives, a hated one and a beloved one? And Torah says he has 2 children. Which son is presented first? He has one beloved son, a son of the beloved wife, and a son of the hated wife. So why does the Torah present the wife that's beloved first and the son that's beloved first, when in fact he married? It's possible he married the second wife had children first, but it was more likely that the first wife had children first, and the second wife had children second. So why does the Torah present his first wife second and his first son second? Why does the Torah change the order? Another thing, who cares who he hates or he likes? We know that Torah is truth. Torah doesn't change for whatever it is. Torah is constant and consistent, and it's Hashem's words. His mood, his preference will make a difference. Doesn't make sense. Second, another question. The Torah says, why should you give the inheritance to the firstborn? Because who reshit ono, this is all his power is. What does that mean? Why is it relevant? It's his firstborn. So answer is like this. People think that reality is objective. But the truth is that reality is very subjective. Yankel sees that his brother Shmerel is choking. He calls his father and mother, Mommy, Daddy, Shmerel is choking. What happened? Shmerel swallowed a dime. So Shmerel and Yankel's parents aren't so sophisticated. They take Shmerel, they hold him upside down. You're not supposed to do that. They do they try a little Heimlich, they try a little, put their hand in his throat, they go back and forth, and eventually they get the dime out of Shmerel's throat, Baruch Hashem. But then Yankel says, Mom, Dad, I don't want you to ever buy me any toys anymore. I don't want you to get me any games, or any treats, or any chocolates. His mother's like, why not? Yankel, what happened? You love this stuff. Why do you want us to stop? He said, because I understand very well what's going on at home. What do you mean? Listen, I saw what you guys did for that dime. You did work so hard to get that dime. That means Dad doesn't have any money. So I don't want you to spend any more money on me. So the parents, of course, smile. But together with their smile, their broad, happy smile of their son's cuteness, they're hoping that their son will grow up one day and have a higher perspective. Although they enjoy his cuteness right now, they really hope the child will grow up and not keep that perspective. Every other creature that God made is pretty much predictable. God said, let there be light. What happened? There was light. And the light stays. God says that there should be animals, that there should be trees. If we were to be at the, there's no such thing as the birthday, the first birthday of a horse, and we wish mazel tov to the father and mother of the horse, right? We would all be able to predict the future of the horse. It's going to be a horse. In 5 years, it's going to be bigger and fatter and stronger, but it's going to be a horse. It's going to be faster, but it's going to be a horse. If the same thing happens by a dog's birthday and a cat's birthday, we know when the cat is born, when the dog is born, we know a bird is born, we know what's going to happen. But there's something unusual about a human being. When God created a human being, what did God say? He didn't say, let there be light. What were the words God said? No? Na'aseh Adam. Let us make man. Who is the us? It sounds like that there's more than one person involved in the creation of man. Let us make man. Who is the us? Who could there be us? And in fact, when you learn the Torah, some people, they think, whoa, the Torah is alluding to some other powers. Well, what does it mean? You can make that mistake. The Torah itself opens that possibility for mistakes. What does us mean? Says the Maharal. The Maharal, there are interpretations, but the Maharal says Hashem is talking to you, Shlomo. Hashem is telling you, Shlomo, let us together make man. In other words, I'm giving you a beautiful smile, a beautiful laugh, and a beautiful character, but I'm also giving you free will, and I want you to participate in making Shlomo. Hashem made some of Shlomo, but at the Brit Milah of a child, we wish him to Torah Chuppah Ma'asim Tovim. No one knows what the child's going to be. No one knows if the child's going to be the president of the United States. Okay, who wants to be that anyways? That's a very unpopular job these days. But no one knows if the child's going to go to be a doctor, he's going to be a lawyer, he's going to be a garbage man. No one knows. A child's birth, you can't predict it. So that's why Hashem says, let us make man. Hashem is saying that it's not predicated on what I'm giving you. I am endowing you with the ability to choose how your future is going to be. But a lot of people are very satisfied with status quo. I remember my grandfather, Rabbi Fogelman, by one Farbrengen, he was like, there can't be any more status quo, and took off his hat, he turned it upside down, and said, no more status quo, everything has to be opposite. People are very comfortable doing things in a certain way, and they stay the same. And they're satisfied. But there's someone who's not satisfied with just being status quo. Who's not satisfied with status quo? Our Father in heaven. Our Father in heaven doesn't want us to be satisfied with status quo, and He often throws things into our life which challenge us, which seem to bring us down, seem to derail us, seem to break us. But the truth is, Hashem sees much more in us than we see in ourselves. And that's why the Hebrew word for challenge, nisayon, comes from the word to be uplifted. When Hashem sends a person a challenge, what's the purpose of the challenge? It's to lift them up to a whole new level. Without the challenge, you wouldn't be able to bring out the inner strength that you have inside. Only because of the challenge are you forced to discover strength that you didn't know about. So Reshit Ono, what does the Torah mean when this story of the father and the mother and the hated wife and the beloved wife? The hated wife refers to the animal soul. The beloved wife refers to the godly soul. My daughter told me in Hebrew the word for godly soul is nefesh elokis, and the Hebrew word for animal soul is nefesh bahamis. My daughter told me one has a kiss and one misses. One is a miss. The animal soul always misses. The godly soul goes in for where they contribute love and kindness and goodness. That's a godly soul. Nefesh elokis, nefesh bahamis gets us confused and derailed, and we end up missing. So we're married to both. We have both a godly soul and an animal soul. Never forget, I was in a Farbrengen in Bell Harbor, Florida, about 25 years ago, and there was one guy who made a rap for every chapter in Tanya. And one of the raps goes like this. I don't remember two lines, but the two lines I remember it's powerful. There's a war being fought. Give it some thought. Don't get caught. 24 hours a day. There's a war. Godly soul, animal soul, it's always being fought. That's why the Torah says, Ki tiyena leish. a person will have, it sounds like it's consistent, he will always have two wives. You'll always have the godly soul and the animal soul. The godly soul will always try to push you towards nefesh kiss, to go closer to Hashem, closer to fellow Jew, closer to Torah, to kiss. And your animal soul will always try to make you miss and to make you always go the wrong direction. That's the way it is. And both souls have an offspring. The godly soul's offspring is, of course, wonderful things. The animal soul's offspring seems to be terrible things. But the Torah says, no. Who is the firstborn? The firstborn, the one that you have to pay attention to, is the firstborn of the animal soul, of the hated wife. What does that mean? Rabbi Shabtai Savatitsky, Rebbe's emissary in Antwerp, he shared a story. I think I shared the story with you before. He had this gentleman who worked in the EU, very intelligent man. Like the Fleischman doesn't associate the EU with being intelligent, but this was years ago. The guy's working in the EU, and every so often he refuses his invitation for Shabbos. The rabbi invites him for Shabbos. Every so often he refuses. One day he tells the rabbi, "You probably wonder why I refuse." You notice that whenever he refused, he would look down. He wouldn't look him in the eye. When someone doesn't want to look you in the eye, there's a reason. So the rabbi says, "What's going on?" He says, "Well, there is this woman that I go to visit in Italy on the weekends sometimes, and we want to get married." The rabbi's like, "Mazel tov." So he says, "No, you wouldn't want to say Mazel tov because she's not from our religion." So the rabbi then was going to visit New York for the yearly annual conference of Chabad rabbis, a conference of shluchim, and he invited this guy to come with him. He's like, "Okay, I want to come with you." You come to the Rebbe. Anyone who's been by the Rebbe, you see the Rebbe, it makes you very emotional to seeing the Rebbe. So he comes by the Rebbe, he's very emotional, and the Rebbe every Sunday would give out dollars to every person, thousands of dollars, thousands of people for hours and hours and hours. But this never happened. This was happened, as far as I know, this is very unusual. He comes by the Rebbe, and he starts saying he has a problem. It was, So he tells Rebbe in a few words what his problem is. I forgot to mention. This is what the Rebbe Groner, when someone would try to stay in the line and talk to Rebbe a little longer, so people that were Rebbe's secretaries or helping their secretaries would help people go, "Come on, you can't take the Rebbe's time, let's go, let's move the line along." But this time, the Rebbe held on to the dollar. The Rebbe didn't let the dollar go. That was holding on to the dollar. So the guy's trying to take the dollar, the Rebbe's not letting go. So Groner was like, he realized this is not this is above his position. So the Rebbe's not letting go of the dollar, and the guy started telling the Rebbe his story. And the Rebbe said to him the most unusual thing anyone would say. What do people say? You're going to marry this woman. Your children are not going to know if it's Hanukkah or if it's Xmas. They're not going to know if they're Jewish or if they're not Jewish. They're not going to. You guys are going to fight about everything. You come from a people of the oppressed. You come from the oppressors. You didn't know that there's a hell. You don't know that the Nazis tried to kill Jews, and you're worse than the Nazis. People say all kinds of things. The Rebbe says the most unusual thing. The Rebbe doesn't tell him about the hell he's going to have. The Rebbe doesn't tell him what the unfortunate life he's going to have. The Rebbe doesn't tell him anything like this. The Rebbe tells him, "I'm jealous of you." The Rebbe said, "Why?" It explains. I know the exact words. The content is that every time Hashem sends a person a challenge, that challenge is a ladder to reach a higher place. And the Rebbe said, "I never had a challenge like you. Hashem never gave me the ladder that He gave you. The ladder that Hashem gave you, He never gave to me. This is in other words, this is a ladder that allows you to go to a far higher place." And the Rebbe is given. So here's that from the Rebbe, and he goes downstairs in the Rebbe's shul in 770, and he breaks down crying. And he breaks down crying. Rabbi Sovtitsky said that he couldn't speak to him. The guy was just crying and crying. Brought him something to drink. After 10, 20 minutes, the guy finally is able to communicate. But what does he say? He says, "Finito." And Sovtitsky's like, who is he talking to? And he realized he was talking to her. He's telling her, "It's finito. We're done." He's speaking Italian. He went back to Belgium, and he didn't even call her. He sent her a message that I'm moving to Israel. You won't know my address. I'm not telling you my address. Don't even try to find me. I'll give you any money you want me to give you. I'll give you whatever. But I can't see you ever again. And she went to the Chabad house. She tried to find the address. It was a mess. But what the Rebbe's words were, I'm jealous of you. I'm jealous of you. What does that mean? That the firstborn son, who is the firstborn son? The firstborn son is the son of the hated wife, which means what we achieve when we do what Hashem wants us to do, even though we are not in the mood, even though we're very not in the mood, even though we're pulled the other direction, and we're pushing against, and there's a strain, there's a friction, and we fight that war, despite the friction. That's the firstborn son. That's a reshit. Oh, that's where your great strength comes out. Your strength comes out when you have that kind of a challenge. When you don't have a challenge, you don't discover your strength. That's why the Torah says, "Ki rabim b'nei v'ulo b'nei shemei b'nei v'ulo amar Hashem." Talmud explains, Rabbi Levi says, Hashem says that the kind of offspring I have during the time of the temple is wicked. I have the king Yeravam, I had the king Achaz, I had a bunch of other kings I'm sure my son Zalman remembers, but they were all lousy. And however, when the temple was destroyed, Hashem says, you know who I had? I had Daniel, I had Mordechai, I had a lot more children. Hamidu, Hashem says, the destruction, Hamidu, the destruction raised much greater people. What does it mean to raise greater people? We understand that now. When there's a temple, everything's flowing in a good, organized, easy way, you don't need to discover who you are. You don't need to reach in deeper. That's only when things are going the wrong way and things you can't figure out why things are going this way. That's when you discover something deeper. So it may seem your accomplishments are negligible, but on the contrary, that's indicative that you're strained to get to where you are. It shows something much deeper. The firstborn son, the greatest power, is in the hated wife. Is in what you do that requires to fight. Today I went to visit someone in Cedars, and I was walking in the hall, and then too much time because I had to go back to a carpool, which came late. Not too late. Anyways, Aryeh. So I'm walking down the hall, and this guy is walking down the hall too. I'm in the business for a long time of asking people to put on tefillin. So this is very unusual. I ask this guy, hey, you want to put on tefillin? He's like, okay. The way he put on tefillin is very devout, very into it, very like humble and like completely present in what he was doing. And I'm like, he's like, I'm bad. I haven't done this in a long time. He said, my father, he's from Egypt. And he says my grandfather was one of the last Jewish families in Egypt, and I really should. And my father always tells me to go to the shul, and I don't go to shul. And I really should do this more often, and I don't. And so this guy is like he's working in Cedars. He's been to college. He has no like overt connection to his Jewishness, but he really feels like he should be this guy. He should be the guy who's davening every day. I should get a pair of tefillin, like. And I tried to communicate with him and tell him like, do you know where you know what in you is bringing this to you? What's in you is something very deep and very powerful, very infinite, because you don't have the same challenges your father had. As the Rebbe writes in Hayom Yom, where you are, God decides. What you do there, you decide. You were brought in this scenario that your father wasn't brought into, and the fact that you stop in the middle of the hallway on the way home after a long day, you want to put on tefillin, that tells a lot about you. In fact, you want to get a pair of tefillin. It's a lot about you. So, bottom line is, as we're approaching the new year, and we get a little introspective, we try to look at all of our failures and mistakes, to realize that the contrary, the reason Hashem sends us these challenges and the attractions to the wrong thing is because Hashem's greatest satisfaction, what's the greatest gift Hashem has? On the day that the Father gives inheritance to His children, which means the day of the coming of Mashiach. What will happen the day of the coming of Mashiach? Who will be the firstborn? Who we see as the one that's above everybody else? The hated son, the hated wife, the situations which are full of, it seems like not there's no light there. I'll tell you one more story. The story was shared by Rabbi Chazan from Manchester. Rabbi Chazan said that this guy was married to his wife. And they for many years couldn't have children, and they finally were blessed with a child. But during the pregnancy, the doctor suggested they do an abortion, but she didn't want to have an abortion, because she was waiting for so many years, and she just wanted to risk it. And unfortunately, she died in childbirth. The baby's born, and when the baby grows up, he tells his father one day, "Dad, I found the girl of my dreams, ready to get married, and her name is Christina." I know her actual name. But his father's face changes colors. He's like, What happened, Dad? She doesn't sound like she's Jewish. It's a true story. Doesn't sound like she's Jewish. He said, well, she's not. Make a long story short, on the day of the wedding, the father drives with his son, and he tells the son before he goes to the wedding, let's stop off at Mom's grave. They stop off at the grave, and on the way to the grave, he tells his son, he never told his son how he was born. Never told his son, I just want you to know that your mother, her dream was, the reason she gave her life up, because she wanted you to grow and to marry someone Jewish, to have Jewish children. That's why she gave her life. So this guy, he hears this for the first time. He goes to his mother's grave, and he completely is overwhelmed with emotion. And he gets back in the car, and he calls up his fiancée, who's waiting already by the hall. So I'm sorry, I can't come. I'm canceling the wedding. That's what happened. This is a Jew. This is a Jew. A Jew is not just the beloved son who's always learning Torah and doing mitzvahs. A Jew is also the hated son. Hashem gives each of us characteristics and stuff we don't like. But that's b'yom anchila es banav. That's a purpose of creation. Hashem created the world because He wants a home in the lowest realm, and He wants us, physical people which have all kinds of confusions and attractions to the wrong thing, to create light in that place, and that's what the coming Mashiach is about. B'yom anchila es banav. The day of the coming Mashiach. So it's true, the godly soul is first, the beloved soul, the godly soul has an advantage. That's why the Torah presents the beloved soul first, the beloved wife first. But who is the firstborn? It's the animal soul. When we challenge our animal soul, and we elevate our animal soul, and we change that around, we lift up our animalistic parts of our persona, and we use it for the sake of Hashem. This is something that is a purpose of creation. Okay, one more story. Last story is one more. I just heard this story today. Rabbi Abu Chatzera, Al Vashalom, was Rebbe's whistler. Rabbi Abu Chatzera, a very special man. You know Rabbi Meir?
Yes. Yeah.
Meir Abu Chatzera.
Yes, very well.
Rabbi Meir he was a very funny character. Very similar to Betzalel. A man with a very big heart and a very interesting character. He once came to the Rebbe, and he asked the Rebbe for a bracha to move to Israel. The Rebbe told him that he thinks he should stay in America. So he didn't know who the Rebbe is really. He just wanted a bracha from a tzaddik for his trip. And he was like, okay, I'll get a bracha from this tzaddik. Oh, this tzaddik wasn't really very fun. Let me find a different tzaddik. He calls up his mother. Can you ask the Baba Sali for a bracha for me to move to Israel? Baba Sali was his great uncle, right? His great uncle, I think, Baba Sali. Let's ask the Baba Sali for a bracha so I can go to Israel. So his mother calls out the Baba Sali. Baba Sali says, Meir should stay in New York to help the Rebbe. That's what Baba Sali said. He thought outsmarted the system. Anyways, of all the Rebbe's Chassidim, Meir was chosen by the Rebbe directly to be his whistler. What does it mean to be his whistler? Between the Rebbe's talks, the Rebbe would tell people to say L'chaim and to sing, and rarely, but sometimes, the Rebbe would say they should also whistle. And everyone's explained that when you whistle, the Gemara talks about Mashiach will come, they'll be whistling. That shows the idea of like the freedom of the neshama. That's what the Medrash equates the coming Mashiach with whistling, because whistling has to do with the freedom of the soul. So when Jews are breaking out of the limitations, it's associated with whistling. So Rebbe asked Meir to whistle. And Meir interpreted this. Meir's whistling. You can see videos, Meir whistling and whistling. Meir said, I'm from a fine family. It was so embarrassing. What is he telling me to do? Anyways, the Meir interpreted this. I had a lot of crazy thing in me. But the Rebbe was telling me to transform it. To use all this craziness in me and to use it for holiness. Somehow the whistling inspired a lot of people. People by the Rebbe's upbringing, they heard his whistling. It lifted them. It brought them to a different place. Same as in ourselves. We have a lot of crazy things in us. A lot of stuff that doesn't belong. But those crazy things, that's what causes the coming Mashiach. That causes the greater light. That lifts us up. We don't have those crazy things, and we would never discover who we are. It's a crazy thing, two things we don't like, that allows us to go to Shtus Kedusha, the craziness to serve Hashem beyond logic and reason, to get the coming Mashiach. L'chaim, l'chaim, v'rachim.